welcome to the War Room Roundtable. We just finished chatting with Erik Edwards at Boyd Motor Werks on some of the things that he's finding as successes and challenges. And we're over here in the boardroom. We're going to kind of take a quick snapshot of that conversation from all of our perspectives, and quickly talk about the Boyd Motor Werks business. So there was a few things that were really top of mind for him. One was staffing, one was succession planning, which is kind of in a way a little bit a staffing thing, security, and costing. Those were the main things that he chatted about. And so, Erik, I'm going to have you start about your recommendations, thoughts for Boyd in terms of his staffing.
Well, one of the things that I thought about over that interview and listening to Erik answer questions that he had an idea of what we were going to ask him, but you could tell some of the questions that he was asked, he was thinking extemporaneously, and so he has a backlog of expensive foreign automobiles that need fixing, and how do you get those turned? And so you need to hire more mechanics. Well, where do you find those mechanics? And he's just looking at, my labor is going to increase 200%. I'm going to add one more person. Then I'm going to add another person. That's going to be another 200, another 100% or 200%. So to him, he's growing by leaps and bounds by adding another employee. And so what I would want to do to talk to him is, well, what are you actively doing to find somebody? He isn't doing anything. Most people aren't. They're just kind of hoping that somebody's going to walk in and just kind of knock and go, hey, I'd like to work here. Because they've heard about it, because they're a mechanic and they want to work on foreign cars, and people just kind of find me. And that is true. But what is really going to help him grow is defining his culture, having an employee handbook, verifying the pay rate that he's paying his current mechanical engineer mechanic. Is that market competitive? Well, what is market competitive? So I would help him find what a kind of a general pay rate is looking at. Here's what a dealership would be paying. Here's what a foreign auto import garage would be paying. So you could kind of find a median wage. And then I would want to be asking him to, he's required as an employer in the state of Oregon to have a 401k plan. Oregon requires employers to do that. It's for free. You can take the Oregon Saves .gov plan, or you can get one free through a payroll company or HR provider. They're free now. His father, back in his day, they weren't free. They would be like $5,000 a year to kind of craft one and manage it because you're the fiduciary. So Erik's not spending time investing in that. He's got 50 cars he's got to move and then get another 50 more to replace those. So I would be asking him to review his HR package. Like what? Well, what are you paying people? What is the reason why they want to stay here? Let's figure out a way to get them health care. Let's get them access to health care. Let's retain people and let's recruit people and retain them. So that's the first thing that I would be doing. And I would also be looking at creating something that he could be better managing and having control of from a dashboard standpoint, making sure that he's not spending time on labor issues. Well, when you're trying to grow your business and you want to add employees, you end up, if you just could get rid of these phones would stop ringing and these clients wouldn't be bothering us and my employees would stop bothering me, I could really get some work done. So what you end up having is employees that have a lot of external reasons that sometimes prevent them from coming into work. And he knows that already by saying, well, what do you do to retain people? Just treat them well, treat them how I would want to be treated when I was an employee. And as an employer, he has that advantage because he knows how to treat people well. He just needs access to resources. So my advice to Erik and any small business would be, what are you looking for? And then let me help you, guide you through that process. And he'll be a lot better off and he can grow when he has more talent around him, because you're not going to be able to do it by yourself. You really need good people around you that can help you do what you want to do. He wants to grow his business and really focus on his automobiles. And so by having good talent around him, he can add 2 or 3 people that want to work at a small business that he might not have to pay top dollar. He can find somebody that is willing to work their way up and learn almost in an apprenticeship standpoint if they feel that the position is stable and reliable and he'll be treated fairly. And Erik would be one of those employers. So that would be my advice. has.
Yeah. You maybe mentioned that Erik was on the phones a lot. Like that's a lot of his time. You mentioned something about there could be some growth for him if he was able to get away from the phones.
Yeah, and Erik,
a solution for that.
Erik talked a lot about the times when he was growing in the business, everybody wanted to speak with his father because his father was the subject matter expert, was the owner of the business, and he was excited when he got that phone call. And those phone calls are important, but it also takes away from his ability to be out doing what he really needs to be doing. And so which is being under the hood. But the charm and the essence of the business is him. It's his personality. So he's got to be able to balance that, effectively. And businesses do have that. They do have the ability through, say, virtual assistants or by having somebody else outsourcing those phone calls to get and filter them out appropriately so then he can be responding, or having some form of responsiveness back, an email platform that can be pinging somebody back that says, I'll call you right back. I'll follow up with you in a minute, and then managing his day effectively. So he can then be freed up to, gee, if I could just get all these things out of the way that are keeping me busy, the tyranny of the moment, so I can then interview somebody. But in order to be making money, I got to be fixing, and responding to fixing cars. So what do you end up doing? You take the path of least resistance and you focus on trying to, build cars and remanufacture cars. So
I think that falls right into why the strategic planning is so important for a business, because if you're not taking into account the employee hours or needs into your business hours, or in this case into his bay fees, right? That is so important, because each one of those cars that are coming in and sitting in that bay are requiring, one, his employee techs that are working on it, two, if he's hiring a virtual assistant, the person who's scheduling it, three, at the end of the day, himself, if he's out selling, right? Not to mention the overhead that comes in with having that bay, right? And I think that we don't think about those things a lot. We think that if I can just get 10 cars a day at this much, right, I'll be in the black. Well, that's not really the truth. The truth is that it needs to be broken down strategically so that you understand per car what the true cost is for them just coming into your shop. Right? Because just walking into the door and without servicing them and without paying them, there's a cost without them paying you. There is an immediate cost. There's an overhead cost. There's an employee cost. There is, the sales cost. All of that goes in before you're even talking about the work that's going to be done on it, or the tools that need to be done, or any of that type of stuff.
Right.
So all of that really has to be taken in on the mechanic side. But yes, you need that. You can't grow without it. Right? You can't grow without the techs. You can't grow without the VA. You can't grow without the office assistant, because he can't do it all. Right? We can't do everything as business owners.
And you were also mentioning about costing, sometimes it's about reducing costs, but then sometimes there's other solutions.
100%. So that's our first thought as a business owner, right? Is that if we're not bringing in enough income, the first thought is always, what expenses can we cut? You hear it all the time, especially if you're from the corporate world. You hear it constantly, right? What employees' wage can we cost? What bonuses can we cut? What expenses do we need that we can cut? We hear it all the time. When in the truth, that is actually the last thing you probably should be doing in some of those situations, because you need those employees and you need a lot of those inherent costs to make you function properly, right? And you start cutting that, you're not cutting fat at that point.
Right.
You're cutting legs and feet and arms, and that's not okay. So, but sometimes it is the need. Sometimes your cost is too expensive. Are you getting, like I say all the time, what's your ROI on that? Everything you purchase. If you purchase a monthly subscription, what's your ROI on that?
I was a small business, and I remember I had a leased phone system, whatever. It was exciting for my 7-person office, and we had 6 phone lines. And after about a year of having it, I said, I want to reduce the phone lines. It'll save us money. I'll save us $150 a month. Mm-hmm. And I remember my partner was my uncle, and he said, okay, that's fine, save $150 a month, but you're going to go down from 6 to 4 lines? Yeah. Okay, well, now the phones are going to be ringing constantly. Mm-hmm. They're going to be busier than ever, and you're going to have people that are going to get ticked off and they're going to leave. So you think you're saving money, but it's actually going to cause more
Right,
damage.
so he's talking about lost ROI, right? Untangible ROI, which is something companies never think about, right? Trackable ROI is very easy. It's trackable, right? You sell something, you put out something, you spend money, you get money back. That's very, very, but there's intangible ROI that people don't think about, especially when it comes to hiring employees, especially when it comes to customer service. It's not about the customer who complains. It's about the 10 customers who didn't say anything and never come back.
Right.
You can never touch that ROI. You will never know how much money you lost, and that number can be exponential, right? And so that is what he was trying to show you, is that, yeah, you could cut that money. You could save that $150. Sure, the phones are going to ring more, but now you don't know how much ROI you're actually losing by saving that $150. Is it worth it? Again, is cutting the expense actually worth it, right? Or is it more about how do you improve your cost and your income dependent on your needs, right? So I'm a growing business. I feel the stress right now. I just brought on a new accounting manager, feeling stress, right? I'm feeling that I need to hire somebody else because I'm too busy, but do I have enough tangible money to be able to support that person the way that they need to be supported? 401k, for example, good insurance, walking the walk, giving them a good livable wage, which we all should be doing as employees. We shouldn't be thinking about how we can cut our employees' wages. Our employees are our salespeople. Our employees run our business, not us. You know what I mean? And so we need to be investing in them even more. How do we do that? Right? And but how do we do that and still keep the doors open? How do we do that and still pay ourselves? How do, right? And or how do we do that and invest the extra 20 hours that we need to invest when we're already working 100 hours a week?
And
too
so
much.
and you can save yourself. You can't save yourself to the promised land. You've got
But
to
you have
generate
to
revenue,
do it.
right?
Right.
So
You
we're
have
talking
to do
about
it.
correct. And so I'm agreeing with you. And the only thing that I keep, coming back to is, well, what I was told was, Eric, you can save $150, but really, wouldn't it be nice to just grow the business? And so for Eric, I would be
Or
saying,
how can you find that extra $150 a month to cover that cost?
there you go. And it comes down to revenue generating, and then hiring those employees are going to help you generate revenue. How? By
But
turning out those
also having
cars.
a good strategic model to understand where that revenue is coming from. It's very easy to say, I want to make $500 today. That's simple. Okay. But how do you do that? How much are you spending to make that $500?
So
right?
I would be,
So every one of my clients that, like, let's just say, so I have a monthly bookkeeping client. They have certain things that they fall into. It's a couple, $425 a month. But I actually have a table that tells me how much ROI I actually make off of that. So if I'm taking into account that I'm working 2 hours, my accounting manager is working 2 hours, my bookkeeper is working 2 hours on top of all the subscription needs, do you know what my ROI is on that? Like 10%. Do you know what I mean? So I'm truly making like $40 or something like that off of my client at the end of the day, right? And we don't think about that enough. We think about, well, this is a competitive market and this is how much it should be. Should it really be that much for you? Or should it be more? Should it be less?
Should you take a look at it?
You got to know, though, what is making up that number? What made you get to that number besides the fact that your neighbor charges that much? Right? There needs to be more in-depth thought process. That's why a strategic plan and a budget and a marketing plan is so imperative.
Because you might be able to do it
follow
less.
it is, you might be able to do it less. You might be able to streamline some of your systems. You might be able to charge more. You might be not even in a good market for what you're doing. Right? So, like, I talk about this all the time. Like, my husband used to do, like, pool cleanings, right? If he did that where we grew up in Palm Springs, you know how much he'd be charging per pool? Like $100 a month or some BS. $125 a month. You know how much he charges in the Pacific Northwest? 4 to 5 times that. You want to know why? Because there's no market here for that. Because not a lot of people own a pool. And the people who own a pool here want their stuff done and they want it done right and they need it taken care of 24 hours. Where in Palm Springs, dude, everybody has a pool. Everybody in their neighbor has a pool and they are not going to pay you $500 a month for that shit. You know what I mean? Is it worth doing it over here in Palm Springs or is it worth doing it in the Pacific Northwest? Do you know what I mean? This business model in Palm Springs was not a healthy business model. You're never going to be profitable on that. You're always going to have higher expenses. Then you have wages. Where out here, you're always going to be profitable and you're never going to have to worry about expenses. So are you even doing the right business model for that area? It's all part of that strategic planning to really understand what you're doing. It goes so far beyond that. But it does include your employees in a way that is imperative to your success.
It requires discipline and the ability for the Eriks of the world to, try to not have that stinking thinking, because when you think about it, he's got infrastructure in a tight neighborhood. He's got a commercial building on a wicked busy boulevard that has got great location, but he's tapped out for space, and it's an unsafe area in
Well,
some
that's
ways.
another thing, right? There's also that not tangible ROI that he's putting into place. He can't account for how much loss he's going to have in a year due to theft, due to vandalism, due to all the things that are prone to the area in which his business is at.
Yeah.
And
I'm going to cut you off because I think Steve could probably talk a lot about the security side
The
of it.
security aspect of it.
Yeah.
And he's doing a lot of things right. He has the video cameras, and he has the bars on the windows. He has,
Runs down there at 3 o'clock in the morning when he sees something on his ring. Poor guy.
He has the security people that canvass the area. But if you have a security person that canvasses the area, let's say every 4 hours, well, what happens between when he's there?
Hour 2 and
hour
3.
2, hour 3,
Yeah.
hour 4 when he doesn't get there. What happens, and how can you mitigate that risk to, as you pointed out, very expensive cars, and you're responsible for those vehicles when they're on your premises. You're responsible for those. So how do you mitigate that risk?
On top of your insurance.
On top of your
of
insurance.
everything else that's going to go into that loss.
Mm-hmm. And how do you mitigate that? Well, he's doing a lot of things right. Having maybe a larger presence, security presence, that's
Like a 24-hour type of
24-hour
presence, or
presence.
overnight, once they close type of thing.
it comes in
On site.
on site, and they stay until business hours pick back up. That would be the only way really to mitigate that risk or that loss, potential loss from the vandals, the people that are stealing cars, the parts. They steal parts. And if someone left, I don't know what you leave in a car, but your
Personal stuff.
personal stuff, or your speedometer, your special speedometer they have on cars, stealing that stuff, is really devastating to a small business.
Correct. Or those personal affects that you can't regain back from the customer. Or again, talking about lost ROI, right? If a vandal breaks in and, let's just say, breaks all the windows in somebody's car and tries to take something out,
That's expensive.
and yes, one, it's expensive, you have to fix it, but 2, there has to be some communication to the customer.
Yeah.
Right? And at that point, does that customer feel, even though he loved your service, even though you've taken really good care of him, even though you haven't charged him to fix and replace all of those things, and he's getting his car back in better probably condition than he left it, doesn't mean that he's going to feel comfortable coming back.
Right. He doesn't feel the warm and
Safe
fuzzy
anymore.
safe.
And so then how do you mitigate that risk, right? And I think that that's something that a lot of Portland businesses deal with, especially the closer they are to the downtown areas, right? They really feel that weight a lot. And what are you putting into that? Now we're guessing. Am I going to put in a 10% loss or 20% loss this year? And now having to think about that every single year of like how much loss they have to actually account for.
Yeah. That's like
Yeah.
shrink.
On top of IT, on top of everything else.
On top of all
keeping
of
your
the-
customer data safe and
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah.
And we haven't even discussed the IT aspect of it.
Right.
But I mean, you have to have physical security.
Yes.
Which he was the one. He's the one that said, "Hey, these are the steps that I'm taking to present physical security."
Yeah.
We haven't even talked about cybersecurity.
Internal, right.
Or internal security, or cybersecurity, or IT security. We haven't even discussed that. And
Which is a cost a lot of people don't think that they need until
it
something
happens.
happens.
Yeah.
And he takes bank account information, he takes credit card information.
Oh yeah, he's storing all that
he's
information.
storing all that information. Well, how are you storing it?
Right.
What security do you have in place there? What things?
Who has
can you-
access?
Who has access?
Yeah.
What things it can be accessed from outside?
Right.
So all of those things that you have to discuss is a much larger topic than what we can just discuss here
Right.
right now. So just looking at the physical security, my recommendation would be, more cameras and 24/7 security,
Yeah.
Which may or may not be cost effective.
which may or may not.
100%. Super
Yeah.
expensive.
Mhm.
And also one of those things where you're talking about, okay, now there's just one more thing to add,
Right.
right, into this budget of expenses that I can't cut. These are now becoming fixed costs for that area, right? So those fixed costs now again need to play into your overall cost. So like if he's going to do that, does there have to be a thought process of increasing his pricing, right? And those type of things too that I don't think we do enough of as business owners. We're supposed to be doing it every year, and I don't know how many business owners actually do that, right? Every year.
Yeah.
So
Well, you guys, thank you for chatting about Boyds and meeting us over there at the bay. Got to
was
see
fun.
the inside. I know.
It's exciting.
And all the pretty cars.
Yes, very pretty cars.
And yeah, I think this was a really good chat and a look at a mechanic, an auto repair shop in Portland, and kind of the unique things that it takes to run a business like that. And with that, viewers, it was exciting that you could join us today, and we are looking forward to the next episodes. We'll see you there.